Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Anika,
I'm Charlotte.
and we're from KnowledgeFlow. Today we're meeting with Durham Region Victim Services to discuss the nature of the work they do to help the community, as well as how it relates to our work here at KnowledgeFlow on cyber safety.
So without further ado, let us introduce Sydney, the Clinical Director at Durham Region Victim Services. Thank you for being here, Sydney.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Hello, Sydney. It's so nice talking to you. Tell me a bit about what you guys do at Victim Services and what the job exactly entails.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Victim Services of Durham Region is a not for profit organization that supports victims directly impacted by crime or tragic circumstance, as well as their family members and witnesses to crime. All in all, what that means is that we work very closely to support the community after some of the most vulnerable times in their lives. And we support a variety of different crime categories, everything from online exploitation all the way up to actually cases like homicide, sexual violence, manslaughter, anything that you kind of hear on the news is likely something that we're supporting. And we do it in a very unique way. We support clients immediately following an event, whether that's on scene emotional support or if we're getting reports from police or community partners or even self referrals just a few days following. We provide them with wraparound supports in order to ensure that their basic needs are met post exposure to significant crime and kind of help them throughout that process and get them situated to where they feel that they're able to move forward and be connected with appropriate resources in our community.
That sounds like hard work. You guys do so much to help the community, which is awesome. At KnowledgeFlow, we've made many resources that help victims of online abuse, exploitation, and scams. And we try to help people of all ages keep themselves safe from malware, fraud, hackers, and other online threats. And we try to provide all this information completely for free, as we recognize the importance of helping the community and educating people on cyber safety. We're currently working with victim services through our project called Project Knowledge Share, and it's a project designed to stop cyber fraud through community collaboration. And I think a lot of our work goes in hand with victim services, right, Sydney?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working closely for a couple of months now, actually, on a lot of those major projects and trying to incorporate any of the material that you've made available to the community by sharing that and posting that to our socials, and even as going as far as implementing a lot of your material into our education-based programming. So absolutely, there's tons of overlap.
Well, we really want to learn more about what Victim Services does day to day, especially relating to online safety.
Yeah, sure.
Specifically, we're curious about what kind of cases or how many cases you see within a month or a year that are linked to online safety and what type of cases are they?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to the start of that kind of question is victim services, although mostly known perhaps for our work that supports victims, families, and witnesses after crime. We do a ton of work also in prevention and education and research, and that's where I see again a ton of overlap and more where I'd like to kind of get into today. So with that being said, indirectly related to your question and who we're supporting, I pulled our stats from last quarter, which would have been December 2022 to March 31st, 2023. We had 50 extortion cases based from online extortion. So that is obviously quite significant. We see that often around Valentine's Day, a time of season where images are being shared between often youth online that wind up sort of in our queue to be able to sport after they may have gotten into the wrong hands and have been shared outside of who they felt that that image was going to be shared with. So a ton of sextortion would be a primary area that we see and that we provide support around. Elder fraud as well. We see a lot of your work with your awareness campaigns and media posts around that. And in partnership with the RPS, we definitely see that as well. Those would probably be the two major ones. Of course, we do support victims of child pornography and that type of thing far less often than I would say the sexual online exploitation, which is a huge piece, unfortunately, of our work that we see today.
Wow, that sounds very complicated, but it sounds like you're doing a great job. How often do you see cases of human trafficking, and do you know if they've increased or decreased over the years?
Yeah, yes, definitely. We've seen an increase in human trafficking. I have a stat just that from 2018 until the end of fiscal this year in 2022, we saw an over 300% increase in the number of human trafficking victims and survivors that we're supporting. In 2022, 2023, so again, last fiscal alone, we supported nearly 250 victims, new victims of human trafficking. But obviously, hearing that number and knowing that human trafficking, domestic human trafficking, sex trafficking, sorry, is happening kind of in our own backyards can be, you know, it has that shock value, absolutely. You know, it's worrisome for, I know, for parents and for caregivers, but getting the word out there that this is happening and what to look for is the utmost importance to us as we move forward to try to support victims, but also ideally get that number going the other way. Yeah, and with that, I can definitely say that speaks to the work that you're doing is the online recruitment. So again, going back to, we really need to teach our young people to protect themselves online and have an idea of what to look up for as warning signs or as red flags. The average age right now in Durham region is 13 years old of recruitment into human trafficking, which again has that shock value because they're just kids. And with that again is you know, apps like TikTok, apps like Snapchat, Discord, like all of these places that we know youth are flocking to because of how popular they are, but being aware of recruiters that may be there and looking for vulnerabilities to latch onto in order to recruit into the sex trade. So just to be mindful.
How many cases do you see on average of children and teens being exploited or harassed on the internet? And do you think these cases are avoidable?
I don't have an exact stat for that,
Mhm.
but what I can say of the 50 that happened in our last quarter, a vast majority, if not almost all, were youth. So a lot of what we are seeing is our young people who are being victimized online. Of course, I love to say that these are avoidable. What I do know is that we can enhance the skills and knowledge that youth have before interacting online to be able to set up their own safety net, to where they feel comfortable with who they're talking to on the other end of Snapchat or TikTok or whoever it may be, or what on whatever app or whatever internet source they're looking at. So I would love to say that yes, there is always a world where this doesn't exist, but youth are definitely who are being targeted and who are most vulnerable to this right now.
And so, how has the prevalence of cybercrime and online harassment changed the work of victim services groups? And what challenges do you face in responding to these issues?
Yeah, I would say that since COVID, especially, I think the isolation of having youth at home, not around their peers, directly impacted that. We saw recruitment of, even domestic sex trafficking being in, the community, in our malls, in our, youth shelters, to directly recruiting online. So that's been a really, really big impact. I think that the challenging piece is sort of now what, if you will, in terms of, of course, naturally parents and youth caregivers are all very nervous after, something has been done. And we're here to help sort of walk you through the process and give you information so you can make informed decisions in terms of reporting and what does that process look like and what can be done. And again, prevention for the future is a big piece of that we've seen. So yeah, definitely a massive increase, unfortunately. But and I would say also, of course, it's changing our work within our prevention. We recognize that this is something that we need to continue to learn ourselves more about so that we can support the community on, as I'm not sure if we see it going away, in our near future. So, that's why it's so important, the work that you're doing and the work that we're doing collaboratively to ensure that the material's getting into the hands of who needs it most.